about myself and why I'm interested in the issue. So I grew up in a middle-class family in a small town in North Carolina, Hickory, North Carolina. My dad was a traveling paper salesman, and my mom was a public school teacher. Both of their parents had been employed in the textile industry and mills in North Carolina after the Second World War. And I got really lucky in my life. I did well in school. I got the opportunity to go to a very privileged boarding school, got a scholarship to Harvard. And in the same period that my life was taking off, both my parents were able to retire. In the 5 years after their retirement, not only had my father's company completely laid off all the people in his division, all the mills that had employed all of my family were shut down, either moving overseas or becoming increasingly automatized. And a few years after that, the public teacher unions that my mom was a part of in North Carolina, if you know anything about North Carolina, political situation have been torn apart. So the jobs have become much more fragmented and much more insecure. I, on the other hand, got really lucky. I had the opportunity to co-found Facebook with Mark Zuckerberg and with Dustin Moskovitz out of our dorm room in 2004. Then went on to work for President Obama to lead that campaign and have had a lot of fortune at a relatively young age. And my interest in this issue is certainly driven a lot by the data and what drives the mission of Give Directly, but it's also somewhat personal, because I feel like I have been disproportionately fortunate and have benefited from an economy that has stopped working for the vast majority of Americans. And it's not only my responsibility, but the responsibility of everybody, whether they've been fortunate or not, to think about how do we rebalance this economy to work for everyone. And it is my personal belief and the belief of the people that I work with that cash is the most effective way to do that. We don't believe that the basic income or cash is a silver bullet and is going to solve every problem in the world, if only that were true. But we do believe that cash should be the benchmark by which we measure all other steps in social intervention. So, in other words, we absolutely need hospitals, schools, infrastructure, all of the above, but we also need cash to be able to make sure that those social institutions are effective and to empower everyday people to take their lives into their own hands and to be the masters of their own destiny. So the Economic Security Project, the way that we conceive of our work is to convene people who are interested in how cash can provide financial stability to answer 4 big questions. How should we design a basic income? In other words, how much, who should get it, should it be universal, should it be means tested, etc. How should we pay for it? How should we talk about it in a way that's in line with traditional American values or that challenges those values, perhaps? And finally, how are we going to get it done? What's the political roadmap to get from point A to point B? Is it through cities? Is it through states? Is it through a pure social movement? Is it about insider policy? And I don't have an answer to any of those questions, and I think my co-chairs and the other people who are part of it would also say that we don't have sort of firm, clear answers. Instead, we want to try to convene as many smart people as possible, people who've been doing this work for years, decades, and people who are new to the field, to have a lively debate and to take a non-ideological approach to the question and push in as many directions as possible, and then to begin to make some investments. So we've made a commitment to invest $10 million over the course of this year and next into research, campaigns, demonstrations, movement builders who are working on the basic income. And our hope is that at the end of the 2-year cycle, we have a better sense of what are the leading campaigns that we as a movement can support. So the big picture is not to sort of develop an answer, but instead to broaden and diversify the community so that we have as many people in the room talking about how basic income might work, and hopefully having a more robust conversation as a result. We're well on our way. We've made, I think, 25 grants now to a good number of organizing groups, some folks in the arts and culture world, Give Directly, the Y Combinator pilot, several others. So others I see in the room, and we'd love to be in dialogue with many of you in the room and people that you may know as well who have creative ideas on how to move the ball forward. So I'll pause there.